everyone, welcome back to TEK Utah. In this video I want to go through a couple of quick tips on how to improve the performance of a computer when it comes to gaming and really just overall the responsiveness of your computer. So recently I had the opportunity to work with one of my clients on his home system. He had questions as he likes to play games on it, and he noticed that it was really laggy at points, would take a long time to load, and various other issues that just made the overall gaming experience for him kind of lackluster. So we jumped on the system and I did some analysis, and there were at least 2 or 3 things that are pretty common issues when it comes to gaming and trying to get the best performance out of your computer. Now, he had only bought the computer, I think maybe a year ago, and he had a really decent video card. He had an NVIDIA RTX 3050, 8 gigabyte discrete video card, which is great. I mean, that'll run anything you want to throw at it. Now, the problem he was running into, and there were a couple problems. So this was a name brand system. It was a Lenovo. And I find this issue more often than not is when you buy these computers, he bought it and it came with 8 gigabytes of RAM. Now, 8 gigabytes in a gaming computer is pretty minimal. Games will tend to use RAM to offload data back and forth between the video card and memory, and so one of the first issues with this is just not enough RAM. If you're going to be playing any kind of decent gaming, I'm not going to list any games here, but really, any of these higher level games, you need at least 16 gigs of RAM. And if you can, and the more RAM, the better. RAM is pretty cheap these days. The other problem with his memory was that he only had 1 stick of RAM in his system. Now, his system had 2 slots, but only 1 slot was being used. Now, the reason this is an issue is that systems are designed so they can work with 1 stick of RAM, but what they do is they go into what's called single channel mode. And so there's 2 different modes. There's single channel and dual channel. The difference in this, a good example would be like having a 1-lane highway versus a 2-lane highway. With a 1-lane highway, traffic has to stop going one direction while traffic is able to pass through this 1 lane, and then that traffic has to stop so the other side can go. It's almost like a construction zone where you're limited to 1 lane, and so traffic can only travel in one direction at a time, and this really slows down the efficiency of your computer. So with a single channel mode, it's only able to transfer data in this single channel one way at a time. Now, he had 2 slots, so one of the suggestions I made to him was, hey, let's have you upgrade your RAM to at least 16 gigabytes of memory. And what that means is getting a kit, essentially. So 2 8 gigabyte sticks. And when you put 2 sticks in this, at least 2, some systems have 4 slots, some systems have 2, others have 8 slots. But when you're putting them in pairs, that allows the system to work in what's called dual channel mode. And it's a lot faster. Like, it makes a world of difference in how responsive your system is in everything, not just in games. We're talking how the operating system responds, how quickly it's able to respond. Obviously, having more RAM is better, but he could have put 2 4-gig sticks in his system and still kept it at 8 gigs, and it would have run a lot faster. So, just as a tip to those building systems, never build systems with only a single stick of RAM. You're bottlenecking your system. You're forcing it into a single channel mode versus a dual channel mode. So if you're looking at improving the performance of your system, whether it's through gaming or otherwise, check to see if you're only utilizing 1 stick of RAM. If you are, get a kit. Get a 2 8-gig sticks, or a 16 gig kit, which is 2 by 8 gigs, or if you can support 32 gigs, which most systems do these days, get 2 16 gig sticks. If you have 4 slots, you can upgrade your system quite a bit. Okay, the more RAM, the better, is what I always say. So the other issue we ran into with his system that was really holding him back in being able to get the most performance out of his system was his hard drive. So his hard drive, his system was configured so that when he bought it, it came with an NVMe or M.2 solid state drive that was attached to his motherboard. And this is great. It was a 500 gig hard drive, but unfortunately he had used up almost all the space on that hard drive. And so what he had done is he had gotten an external platter drive. I think it was a 1 terabyte mechanical drive. So this is the older style mechanical drive with the spinning platters in it, and hooked it up to his USB port, and he was installing GameSys. Now this is absolutely not the way to do this. Games are going to take forever to load. Moving between levels is going to take forever, and if it has to swap data between the hard drive and memory, it's going to take, again, forever to do this. So what I told him to do, we did some research on his system and found out that he has, at least, I think it was like 3 SATA ports on his motherboard, and that it would be optimal to just get I think what we recommended for him was a 2 terabyte Western Digital Blue solid state SATA drive. So I'm going to show you a couple things here. So we have a picture of a motherboard. So the first thing I want to go over is the memory. As you can see, these slots, number 3 over here, this is the RAM slots on a motherboard. You always want to do research on your motherboard to find out what type of memory it takes. Most modern systems take either DDR, older ones will take DDR3, but most modern ones will do DDR4 or the newer DDR5. So they are going to look like this. They're vertical slots, and as you can see, they're kind of colored. And that is to help indicate which slots go with which slots. So if you're going to be upgrading and you only have 2 sticks of memory, you're going to put them most likely in these lighter slots first, and then if you add more memory later on, you'll put them in the darker slots. You always do it in pairs. Okay, so his NVMe drive would be under something like this. There's a heatsink on this. There's a little memory stick underneath this that's connected to the port for that directly on the motherboard. But for him, what we recommended was to get a 2 terabyte SATA drive, which would connect to these ports over here on number 7. He would mount the drive somewhere in his case and connect it to that. And then in Windows, you would actually go and just partition the drive, or it would do it automatically for you. This will give him 2 terabytes of solid state drive space on the SATA bus, which is a lot faster than the USB bus. I think the maximum transfer rate on SATA is about 540 megabytes per second. Ideally, it would have been better to just get like another M.2, but I think you only had 1 port, and to upgrade that one would require a lot more technical know-how to replace it, reinstall the OS, or image over his existing OS. So the simplest solution we found for him was just to add a second SATA drive, mount it somewhere in his hard drive or in his computer, and then just start migrating his games over to that. And I told him that by doing these 2 things, memory upgrade with 2 sticks, get it up to at least 2 sticks, or to make sure he has a kit of 2, and then to add the solid state drive would drastically improve the performance of his system without doing any major upgrades, like upgrading the processor or just overall doing anything else. Because RAM, hard drive are typically the 2 biggest bottlenecks in a system. And depending on how high level the games are, obviously getting a better video card would be good, but with RTX video cards, they're pretty nice. So that's it. For those of you out there curious about a quick solution to improve the performance of a system you have, check to see if you're running dual channel or 2 memory sticks. If not, upgrade so you have at least 2 memory sticks in there. And if you're running mechanical hard drives, the platter hard drives, please upgrade. Get away from those. They're kind of the old-fashioned way of doing things. Solid state drives are getting up there in size and space, and reducing in price considerably. There's really no excuse for using platter hard drives these days, unless you're doing large data storage that requires more than 4 to 8 terabytes of storage. But I think most people would be perfectly happy with 2 terabyte, or even I have a 4 terabyte Samsung SATA drive in my system, and it works really well. System performance increases, snappiness, responsiveness increases, It's just the easiest way to improve the performance of your system. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. Please like and subscribe to our channel for more tips in the future. We'll talk to y'all later.